Okay, it looks like we're at 1:33 here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is Kevin Rehberg with the Alliance for Audited Media. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. It's my pleasure this afternoon to present on AAM's initiatives and provide some updates on where those initiatives are at, specifically as they relate to our news media organizations. We've had quite a few things that we've rolled out in the past year or so I want to kind of give a state of the state on where those things are at and where we're going into the future. All of these things can be used to add value to your current relationship with AAM. So why don't we'll go ahead and get started here. I'd like to just start off with just really quickly a little bit about me in case you and I haven't spoken already. I've been in the industry for over 17 years now, the majority of that time with the Alliance for Audited Media and previously ABC. The bulk of that time I spent managing our readership auditing department. So that was cultivating and auditing, or cultivating a relationship and auditing Nielsen Scarborough, the dozens of custom research houses that many of you are using to conduct your readership and demographic information and your market research, and then putting that into the AAM ecosystem. So myself and my team would audit the research going on, make sure that they were up to industry standards, and then make sure that that information got entered correctly into the AAM ecosystem. And then more recently in product development, and now over on our client development side, working directly with many of you on the news media side of the business, just making sure that everyone, that all of our clients are aware of what we're up to, maximizing your accounts, just making sure that overall you're as satisfied as can be with a relationship with AAM. I also have a somewhat unique relationship with local media and journalism. About 8 or 9 years ago, I decided that I wanted to get more involved in my community, so I got the bright idea to run for local office. So for the past 8 years, I've been what's essentially a city council person for the community that I live in. It's been a fantastic experience. Highly recommend it to anyone who wants to get more involved in the community. It's a great way to really influence and understand what's happening in the community and sort of direct where the priorities are. But a big part of that is interaction with the local media. Now there's a lot of talk, and rightly so, in the news media industry right now about news deserts. And how quickly these areas are growing in the United States that don't have any local news coverage. And that presents a real problem, as we know, because local journalists are the ones who essentially they're whistleblowers. They see what's going on in the community, they see what's going on at the various levels of local government, and they write stories on that, make sure that the community is aware of, hey, there's a tax increase coming, or there's a bridge that someone wants to build, or et cetera, et cetera. These are all projects that are going on at local levels, but a lot of times if that jurisdiction is in a news desert, the residents aren't going to know about it. Now, I'm lucky enough to live in a community that has two local news media companies covering the same area. So in that regard, we have ample coverage and there's a good relationship there, but I really get to see from that local perspective, I get to see just how important local journalism is just to the fabric of the United States and the ability for residents to understand where their tax dollars are going, where the priorities are, knowing who their elected officials are. So, I get to kind of see it from both sides, and both sides really add to the equation to understand exactly how important our industry is just to the United States and Canada, the two nations that we represent here at AAM. So that's a little bit more about me. Now, the goals for this 45-minute session are pretty succinct, pretty straightforward. I want to show you a little bit more about AAM data usage. Now, this isn't exactly a new product or a new offering, but it sets the table. It helps you to understand why we've made the decisions that we've made, why we developed the products that we've developed. I'm going to also speak to brand view and our new heat mapping tool. Those are a couple of exciting things that have come out in the last 15 months or so. And then also talk a little bit about quality certification, digital ad fraud, how it's probably negatively impacting your bottom line, and you might not be aware of exactly how that's happening. So I'm going to walk through some examples of digital ad fraud, how much it has been costing marketers, and what AAM is doing about it. Now we'll start with the data usage part of this, but to introduce that, this is the obligatory, our world, our industry is changing, and it's changing quickly slide. It used to be the core product, and you hired kids to walk down the street, deliver newspapers, and then everyone on the street would just kind of throw money at the kid. He's basically walking down the street with a wheelbarrow and collecting money for your media company. You also had a room full of operators. They were taking money for classified ads, for personal ads, all kinds of things. All of those revenue sources have kind of fragmented off into other directions. And what we've seen replace or start to replace those revenue streams is a capitalization of the audience that you have. The audience that you have really hasn't changed. The reach that you have hasn't changed. You still reach the most people in your communities compared to radio, compared to television. You still have that coveted audience. So now it's a matter of really developing innovative ways to reach those people. And we're seeing you do that through podcasts, through events, newsletters, social media, and then, of course, the core products that are kind of driving, keeping the lights on and driving all that innovation. In addition to that, that's one of the big reasons why we've developed the things that we've developed, because we really need to start giving you a platform to showcase all of those tools. So we'll go ahead and get started with a little more information on how your data is disseminated through AAM. Now, one of the big reasons, one of the big values why you've chosen to partner with AAM is because we get your verified data out in front of advertisers. The way that we do that, there are basically three spheres that we kind of show here visually to get that information out to the media buying public. The core channel is the Media Intelligence Center. So when you file your quarterly data reports and you complete your audit reports, that information goes into the Media Intelligence Center. That Media Intelligence Center is then used by media buyers to complete their media buys. We've seen, kind of looking at the analytics, that the media buyers are really using we'll call it the MIC from this point forward, the Media Intelligence Center. They're using it at the zip code level. They have stores that they're representing, they have clients nationally that they're representing or regionally, and they need certain zip codes that they need coverage in, so they go in here and they see which clients of ours have audited metrics for those zip codes, and then that's who they then prioritize in their spending plan when they're looking to create that 360 media plan for each of their clients. They do spend a little extra money when they're dealing with a AAM verified client versus someone who's unaudited or someone who uses one of the other auditing sources that might be out there. We also have been developing, and probably the biggest growth area for us are our proprietary data feeds. Now, these proprietary data feeds run automatically. It's essentially an API handshake between our servers and the servers at Novus, NSA, News America. I believe L'Oreal has one, Best Buy. I believe with NSA, it's every other week we take our data set for news media organizations, and it gets automatically piped into NSA's servers, which uploads it into the NSA enterprise system. That enterprise system is what they use to conduct their media buys. So we don't have analytics. We don't see exactly how often you're being viewed once it goes into a media buyer's enterprise system. But you should know that the data is being sent off there. As soon as it's filed, as soon as you have your latest data, that's going off to our clients, to our media buyers, so that they have access to that information. And then the third sort of sphere that we have where we're getting your data out into the marketplace is with our industry partners. Now, a good example of that would be Kantar Media. They have their own database. They have their own set of media buyers, and it's not mutually exclusive between AAM and Kantar. A lot of our media buyers use both resources. But the media buyers that are in Kantar Media, they see, so Kantar scrapes our MIC, gets our data from, or gets your data from the Media Intelligence Center, uploads it into Kantar's database, and then when media buyers are in the Kantar database, they see your data in there with that AAM stamp of approval, so that they know this is third-party verified. This isn't a self-claim. This is something that has a reputable third-party stamp of approval on it. So you're distinguished in these other databases. You're also used with Nielsen Local to help with their readership calculations as well. So just looking macro-wise at the Media Intelligence Center, we've seen the activity grow over the years since we've debuted it. And it's been active for over 5 years now, I believe. We have over 3,000 active users. Now, we classify an active user as someone who has logged in within the last 6 months. I would say it's probably an active user would be someone who logs in within the last year, because they might just be getting your audit report data. But if we're looking every 6 months, then we have 3,000. Over 3,000 active users. 71% of those are looking at least on a monthly basis. And we've seen, probably the biggest takeaway here from what we've seen in the analytics is that we've seen media buyers migrate en masse from the audit reports to the quarterly data reports. And it's not that the audit itself isn't an integral part of AAM. It's not that doesn't matter to the media buyers. It's that there's a halo effect there. So the media buyers understand that the vast majority of AAM clients are AAM clients because they're good publishers, because you're filing truthful claims. There's not going to be an adjustment. So when they see those quarterly data reports, there's a baked-in assumption that, okay, there isn't going to be a huge assumption here on the back end when it's time to complete an audit. So we've seen quite an increase in the quarterly data reports and in our cross-media reports, and that just reflects the priority that the media buyers have on the currency of data, on having the latest information available. Now I'm going to show you, just to conceptualize this a little bit more. I gave a presentation a few weeks ago at Mega Summit East. It was a breakout session. This is a fantastic conference, by the way, if any of you have a presence on the East Coast or in that area where Mega Summit East covers. This is a fantastic conference for you to attend. I highly recommend going to it. But for this particular presentation, I took a look at the news media organizations that were in attendance, and just the local and the small and mid-sized publications. This doesn't include your Wall Street Journals and USA Today's and the larger publications, the national publications. This is just the more local publications, because I wanted to show kind of what the data usage looks like for a group like this, for 17 kind of regional-ish, publications. What type of data usage are these organizations getting sort of as a whole? The first thing that I like to look at is to see, okay, how much internal usage is happening? How many of you are using the Media Intelligence Center to look up your own data, look up your competitors' data, and also look up your cohorts' data? And a cohort could be a publication of similar size in a similar market that is 6 states away, but they might have enough similarities with you where you can check out their circulation, their distribution information, and you could get some valuable business intelligence from it. Their competitive analysis, especially, you can really see kind of where trends are heading. There's a lot of data here to be mined. It's a fantastic resource for you to see, obviously not just for your own data, but for all of the publications around you and those that are similar to you. Now, in this particular case, for the Mega Summit East attendees, they have fantastic internal usage. This is over a 2-year period, I believe I pulled this. So this is actually great. This is fantastic internal use. This is what we like to see. Now, I also took the overall usage for those 17 media organizations and I broke it into buckets because they all have different values to them. Probably the most valuable to those of you in this webinar would be the buyer usage, right? You want to see how often the buyers are looking at your data. So you want to see healthy levels of activity there. So over this 2-year period, there were over 5,200 interactions from buyers with those 17 small and mid-sized publications just in the Media Intelligence Center. Again, this doesn't include those API data feeds that we're sending out there because we can't track that. So that's really good data. To break it down a little bit further, there were 173 media buyers from over 100 advertisers and agencies that utilized those 17 media companies' data over that 2-year period. If you look at it on a daily basis, that's over 7 times a day that the data is being interacted with. The reason why I'm breaking it out like this is just because if you see that 5,000 number, it doesn't really, like, especially with me, if you're anything like me, I like to see it broken out kind of at an average levels to give it more context. So over 7 times a day, these clients are being looked at, and that includes off hours, weekends, holidays. On here. And then, of course, we have our direct data feeds. And that factors into this, and then that third sphere that I made reference to, those data partners that are also gathering the data and putting it into their databases. This slide, I really enjoy putting this together because when we get, just as an FYI, if you're in this webinar and you represent a news media organization that's a client of AAM's, after this webinar, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll be happy to put together analytics like this for your organization, for your publication. I can do it at a parent company level. I can do it at an individual publication level. I really think it helps show where your value is with that AAM relationship and where it might stack up in the priority queue. When we get to these other products and services, it'll help quantify how important prioritizing AAM is, along with all those competing priorities that you have from outside of the world of audited data. These are the media buyers that use those 17 news media companies that looked at that data the most. Now, once we get down to the individual publication level, I can't show you exactly who is looking at the data. There's a confidentiality I won't call it an issue, but there's a confidentiality clause when we go into the Media Intelligence Center that we're not going to tell everyone who you're looking at in the Media Intelligence Center, and that's by design too. That actually helps you as a publisher because a lot of times these media buyers, they're in the MIC looking at your data because they don't want to directly reach out to your sales staff because they don't want to get that callback. They don't want to get those emails. They just want to see, they want you to be on their radar, but on their terms, and that's another reason where AAM can facilitate that. So this is a good example of and this is a good mix. This is pretty representative of the other instances where I pulled together slides like this. The mix of agencies and advertisers, more regional advertisers. So we had, looking at the overall usage of the Media Intelligence Center, especially with the buyers, we realized that we have a lot of buyers looking at your data, which is great. But what are we showing them? What do you look like to these media buyers? Are we really maximizing how you look and where your emphasis is on ad revenue? Are we emphasizing that properly in the Media Intelligence Center the way that you look, or the way that you did look before BrandView came out? We decided that we needed a better interface for you as a client. So we developed BrandView, and it was released last July, so I believe that's about 15 months ago. And BrandView is intended to be a way for you as a media company, on that slide I had earlier, that obligatory the industry landscape is changing slide, to be able to showcase, okay, we're not just a core product with core product distribution. We also have a digital product. We also just won an award for a podcast. We're doing philanthropy in the community. We're heavily invested in the community that we're in. We're also doing newsletters. We do a quarterly bridal guide. We do a wellness expo. All of those things are ways that if you're getting ad revenue from it, we want it included in the Media Intelligence Center. We want it in front of those media buyers. And the best way to do that is with BrandView, because it lets you define yourself. It lets you show where your ad revenue, where your focuses are as a company, as a member of your community, what you're doing to bring that ad revenue in, besides just your core products, your affiliated publications, and in a lot of cases, your digital reporting that you have through us. So this is how many of you, this is how everyone used to look prior to July of 2017. This is how a lot of you look right now in the Media Intelligence Center, where you're getting lots of views from buyers, and they're getting what they need. They're getting the distribution, they're getting zip level reporting, but this doesn't really speak to all those events, podcasts, journalistic awards, philanthropy, who your sales staff is. There's no opportunity here to really showcase that, to bridge that gap. With BrandView, you can see at the top there is a tabbed interface. So there's overview, audience. In this case, it's the Tennessean. They have a number of channels audited with us, so that's why they have the extra tabs. Audience, everyone has a print distribution tab. They have affiliated publications. They also report digital and apps, social media. So all those get a special breakout and an ability to basically brag about yourself, to sell yourself to those media buyers in each of those different ways. Now, each where you see text with this, that's all hyperlinkable. Actually, and let me go. I'll explain that a little bit more here in a couple slides. Another thing that we wanted to do is capitalize on that zip level reporting that the media buyers are so interested in. So we came up with an idea to add a tab to BrandView and to the Media Intelligence Center as a whole. Even if you don't have BrandView published, you still have this distribution map tab, although I highly recommend building it around BrandView. It just makes much more sense to have the BrandView profile wrapped around it. But the distribution map tab takes your latest paragraph 3 or your latest quarterly data reporting, and it visualizes it. It puts it into a heat map based on zip level reporting. So you can see here the Berkshire Eagle. It shows via intensity map or heat map. You can see exactly where their distribution is. Now, this is a very big step forward for AAM. I would say for one particular reason. It's a benefit of BrandView that I haven't mentioned yet. BrandView is shareable via a link. So it's not just limited, that data is not just limited to the folks who are in the Media Intelligence Center, your national and regional advertisers and agencies. BrandView being a link, it's something that, especially many of our smaller publications, they can take that link and share it out with potential advertisers, those local relationship-based sales that are so important to our small and mid-size clients. This gives them an opportunity to use AAM in a new way at the local level, something that AAM really didn't drive the bus on a couple of years ago and before that. Now, adding the ability to have a distribution map here, it allows the Berkshire Eagle to go into one of those zip codes, maybe that red area that's farthest north, that's actually in Vermont, and a sales rep can sit down in a new restaurant that just opened up, pull up their laptop, and show them, here's our distribution in the zip code. You can see it's deep red. We actually we cover this area better than anyone. I challenge you to find a television, radio station, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, that will cover a ground like we're doing right here. So it really helps drive and facilitate those local sales. So this is a big reason why I wanted to have this webinar right now, because this is the latest thing that we've rolled out. It's free. BrandView is free. It's no additional cost. If you're currently a client, a publisher of ours, then BrandView is a value add. It's a way for you to just improve how you look in the Media Intelligence Center. Now I'm going to hop out of the PowerPoint here because I wanted to show you one other feature of this by hopping into an actual BrandView profile. So I'm going to click on here, and hopefully this doesn't get all wonky. This is a webinar, so typically things can happen. Okay, good. Loaded just fine. Perfect. Love it when a plan comes together. So this is the BrandView profile for the Portland Press Herald. There is a call to action here for the media kit, so you can click on this and be directed over to their actual media kit. And this is fantastic because this is someone who, theoretically coming through this is someone who came through the Media Intelligence Center. This is a media buyer who really wanted to learn more about maybe ad specs or contacting a rep. And speaking of contacting a rep, there's actually a way to facilitate that as well. So I spoke earlier to the ability to hyperlink in this text as well. So if we go down here and we see display advertising, this is what we click. So say I'm a media buyer, I'm in the Media Intelligence Center, and I see this. This is pretty interesting to me. I want to check it out a little bit more. So I'll click on this, and it sends me to. It actually opens up an email, and I hope everyone can see this. And I hope that I'm not just stuck sharing the PowerPoint, that you can actually see the Outlook email that just opened up. It's an Outlook email where the subject line and actually the body of the email was pre-populated as part of the BrandView creation tool. So you can go in as part of creating your BrandView profile, and you could go in, you can hyperlink, and then you can add an automated subject line and an automated body to this. So really all I would have to do as a media buyer is just say Kevin and click send, and you have a new lead. You have a lead with a national, maybe regional advertiser agency, someone who was maybe even looking you up for a different reason, but then saw that you had a bridal quarterly and they have 5 bridal, they're in charge of a bridal spend for 5 different organizations. Now you have this new connection that you might not have had before that could lead to additional revenue. Let's take a look at their distribution map tab here as well. This is a good example here because Portland Press Herald, they're spread out pretty far, so you can see they go all over the state. And Maine is a very large state. You can see the intensity as it gets closer. You can roll over everything. There are also ways to adjust what we're seeing here. I like to go down to % of household coverage. That's if I were in ad sales at one of your organizations, this is something that I would use because it just makes it a little more visually enticing, especially for the businesses that might be in these red areas. So it really gives a much more, as opposed to that AAM report that would just show a line item for this particular zip code, 04084, and then the number. This actually contextualizes everything and really can help drive those local sales. Let's get back into the PowerPoint. I'll get back in here, make sure I'm in the right one. There we go. Okay, back in there. Good. Okay, so just to sort of wrap up the benefits of BrandView, there's one additional thing here. So since BrandView has been out for about 15 months now, we've had enough time to look at the analytics and just do some pretty basic A/B comparisons. The clients that have a BrandView published in the MIC and the clients that do not have one in the MIC, and just look at how our media buyers are interacting with bucket A versus bucket B. And what we've discovered is that media buyers are interacting 51% more with the clients that have a BrandView profile published than they are with the quote-unquote traditional view, the unpublished BrandView, just the quarterly data report and the audit reports. So you get a 51% boost in your analytics, in your interactivity with these media buyers when you go through the process of setting up a BrandView profile. So it really, this is really something that it's no additional cost, and we actually have staff. If you go into the Publisher Filing Center, you can go in and you can learn how to, you can upload the information. I don't want to say learn how to because it's really not that difficult, but you can go in there and you can You can build your own brand view profile by uploading images, including links to your media kits. You can include videos, all those things. It's really easy to build your own, but we have staff also that can do that as well. We have staff that can help you, especially if you're an organization that wants to do more than one profile. You have more than one publication. We can help with all that. Now I'm going to move ahead. It looks like we have about 15 minutes yet, so I'm going to have to go a little quickly for this particular part. But I really like this exercise. I think this kind of snaps the focus of why AAM is in the space that it's in on the digital side. Say you're walking down the street, you're walking your dog or cat or bird or whatever you have, and you come across a lamp, a magic lamp. You rub it, and a genie comes out. And instead of being the traditional genie, it's going to offer you 3 wishes. This genie is an evil genie. This genie says that I'm an evil genie. I have access to all the knowledge in the world for crime. I'm going to give you that power. So instead of 3 wishes, you now know how to do. You're an expert in every type of crime that there is, every type of crime imaginable. You know how to steal a car. You know how to steal someone's credit card online. You know how to extort money from someone. You know how to best rob a bank. All those things. You're not immortal though, and law enforcement can still catch you. So what do you focus your attention on? What's your best bang for the buck? What's the most efficient way for you to make lots and lots of money without risking, running drugs and ending up in a duffel bag? What's the best way to do that? And the answer is digital ad fraud. This is a fantastic matrix here that shows you sort of risk versus potential payout. And you can see in this that ad fraud is in a league completely of its own. The effort and risk, there's hardly any, and the potential payout, because it is so easy to replicate thanks to cloud-based services now and the scalability of it, it is in a league of its own as far as the ability to steal money and not get caught and never have to worry about being arrested. Now that's changing a little bit. We now have, we have digital advertising conferences all the time. Digital ad fraud is a topic at them. We now have, I believe at a couple of the last couple big conferences, we've had FBI actually in attendance because they're starting to pay attention to this, but they're a long way away from really figuring this out. And they're just inherently limited in what they can do because this is an international problem as much as it is a US problem. So how does it work? How does ad fraud work? There are a number of ways in which it works, but one of the main ways that ad fraud happens is through illegitimate websites. So if you take a look at the internet as a whole, there are 330 million websites. Of those, only 11 million are estimated to be legitimate sites. So that would be, people.com, all of AAM's clients, ESPN, Forbes, the USA Today, the websites that we go to on a regular basis. That's the minority, though. 97% of the websites are never intended for a human to go to. And you can see some of the addresses there. They're never intended for you to remember 000autocraft000.com. That's just a placeholder. It's a way for bad guys, bad actors to do what they're going to do. How does it work? Beyond just setting up you can't just set up a fake website that no one's going to go to. So what happens is those websites, the owners of those websites then buy bot traffic to come through and look like humans to build up their traffic levels. So, and it's typically someone else in the equation. So there are folks that act as bad actors and they build bots, and then there are folks that act as bad actors and they set up websites, and the two folks kind of work together to rip off advertisers, rip them off blind. So we start with a lot of bots. Those are all built at data centers. Amazon Web Services is a big housing agent for that. Bots, just in and of themselves, they need to look human, so they run through a process where they're given human traits, or at least they're given fake browser agent, they're given a fake referral, a fake IP address, and then they're sold to whichever websites are out there, and those websites then collect the sell their advertising on exchanges based off that bogus web traffic, and everybody makes money on that in that, except for the advertisers who have bought advertising on websites where absolutely no one has viewed their traffic. This is a good example of what this looks like. This is a program that just goes through and just creates bots left and right, just boom, boom, boom. You can see the referral agents and the browser agents. All that is spoofed. All of this it's 100% in the cloud. None of it is actually legitimate traffic. I'm going to run through some examples here. Chase recently, they were advertising on 400,000 websites. They had a problem where they actually had a brand identity problem where they got in trouble. They got some blowback for advertising on some websites that were controversial. So they decided to scale back their reach to make themselves brand safe. So they essentially decided, okay, we were on 400,000 websites. We're going to knock that down to just the websites where someone clicked through to us or set up an account or one of those things. Just someone who clicked on something and went through to our website. And that was only 5 or 6% of their total traffic. I think it dropped it down to maybe 20, or no, it dropped it down to 12,000 websites. So out of those 12,000 websites, that was small enough where their team, their army of interns, they turned their interns loose and said, take a look at each one of these 12,000 websites and tell us how many of them are legitimate, are good websites. That dropped it even further down to 5,000 websites. So they reduced their reach from 400,000 websites down to 5,000 websites, and none of their KPIs changed. None. They did not see any drop off in any of the ways, new checking accounts, new credit cards, signups. None of those things changed when they reduced, because they went and they took a magnifying glass to their traffic and their ad spend, and figured out that they had a bunch of phony traffic coming through. Another way bad guys are exploiting good publishers is by actually spoofing your inventory. We have a client, we'll call them Publisher A. They were not selling any page impressions on a particular exchange. We noticed that Publisher A here was listed on the exchange, and they were selling over 8.5 million page impressions a month. And this publisher was not actually selling any of those things. It was a fake website set up to look like one of our clients. Another one, Financial Times. The same thing happened to the Financial Times. They were the victim of domain spoofing. So that's an even more direct way where ad fraud is coming out of clients' pockets, because the advertising money is being spoofed, or the clients are being spoofed, and that advertising money is being siphoned off to bad actors. Procter & Gamble. Mark Pritchard, who is someone who is leading the charge, so to speak, on ad fraud, they decided to cut $200 million from their digital ad spend. And just like Chase, they did not see any drop off in their KPIs. Now, one of my favorite examples, MySpace, was a organization that, I think it was valued at $40 billion or something like that, and the user base went away. So they were they were coasting along, as I think they were trying to reinvent as a music type platform for artists. They were getting the majority of their traffic from Wikipedia, people that were kind of clicking through just out of morbid curiosity, and then a company called PeakU.com, where they do a good job of kind of indexing who had profiles on MySpace, and then redirecting people. If you're Google searching a name, then you could go through PeakU and then go to MySpace. All of a sudden, in April and May and June, the website traffic for MySpace took off, and it took off because they agreed to a third-party agreement with an agreement with a third party that came in waving a check in front of them and just said, you know what, MySpace, you don't have a video section. Video currently has the highest payout for digital advertising. So why don't you let us set up your a digital video space? You can get a chunk of the profit. You don't have to do anything. We'll take care of it. So they agreed to it, and this company set up a MySpace's video section, and it took off rather quickly and started making money for everybody right off the bat. The problem was the traffic was 100% bogus. Folks started looking into, hey, why is MySpace traffic coming back? And they saw that the majority of the referrals were coming from these fake arcade URLs. These arcade URLs were funneling bot traffic, laundered bot traffic into MySpace's video section. These screen rush URLs had a specific tag on them so that when it came through to the video section, they would get sent to a section. If you or I were to go to the MySpace videos, we would see legitimate videos. These screen rush URLs would be diverted to a section that no one would see, where 3 video ads would play simultaneously on a loop over and over again with sound. So it was just a very schizophrenic experience of just ads playing over and over again, racking up all kinds of money for this third party, who is then going to give some of the money to MySpace. I know we're kind of coming up on the end of our time here, but it looks like I'm going to run a little long. So you know what? This is being recorded, so if you have to jump off, feel free to. I'm probably going to take another 5 or 10 minutes here to kind of walk through the digital equation, the digital side of AAM here. You will have access to the recording, so you can go back and take a look at it, or if you want to hang on, ideally, and keep watching, that would be even better. So here's a look at who was impacted by this. So if you take a look, these weren't nickel-dime advertisers. These were blue-chip advertisers that lost 100% of their investment in MySpace videos. American Express, Coca-Cola, these are companies. Wouldn't it look great if these companies were on your website instead of throwing all their money away on MySpace videos? These are companies that are trying to invest in digital. They're trying to invest with quality publishers, and they're still getting burned. Another way that fake traffic can happen, and it can happen to you, is through just buying fake traffic, and it's not nearly as difficult as you think it is. You don't have to go to the dark web to get bogus traffic. This is just a screenshot I pulled the other day from a website called Fiverr. And Fiverr is a place where you can go. It's like a gig-based website. It's like Upwork, where people post certain things that they could do for you. So for $5 or $20, they will tag up your small website for Google Analytics, or something like that. They'll do a little bit of work for you for a little bit of money. Starting at $5, you could get 100,000 or 200 plus additional daily visitors to your website for $5. 1,200. The list goes on and on. I think it looks like there's 600 hits for fake traffic just on Fiverr. So you could be, if you have employees, and I'm not saying this is happening, but it's a possibility. If you incentivize your employees through page impressions, through unique users, through your web traffic, then it's not difficult for those employees to go in and buy fake traffic to send through to your website. That's not difficult to do. All you need is a credit card and $5, and you can start heading down the wrong path with this. So it's something else to be aware of. Something else that's been really hot over the last few years is geo-targeted web traffic. It's becoming very popular to say that you can drill down to left-handed, red-headed, independent voters in Montana, and you can get that. But a lot of that, especially depending on the resource that you use, that can come from, that could be 100% bogus traffic. We're working with our digital offering. We're working with a person by the name of Dr. Augustin Fu. He's a PhD. He has a PhD from MIT in ad fraud and digital ad fraud, digital research. He teaches at a couple universities for this stuff. So he just went out. He wanted to see kind of how rampant fraud could be. So when Hurricane Harvey hit the Houston area at, I believe, between 4 and 5 in the morning, when it was dumping 3 feet of rain, all the infrastructure was wiped out. He went in and he placed an ad buy for, I think, 100,000 page impressions in Houston, which is absurd. At that, this is an area with no infrastructure whatsoever. People are not being exposed to web traffic. There were very few people in the area at the time. If they were swimming for higher ground. And lo and behold, between 4 and 5 in the morning, he bought 100,000 page impressions in Houston, Texas, and supposedly they were delivered. So he went and he looked, a little closer look. Actually, it wasn't delivered. It was 100% bogus traffic. He went and did the same experiment in Bozeman, Montana. Bozeman, Montana, I believe, is about 40,000 people. They're famous for being a community that has more cows than people. So he did the same experiment. He bought 100,000 page impressions between 4 and 5 in the morning in a community with 40,000 people. This exchange claimed to have served up 100,000 page impressions to people in Bozeman, Montana between 4 and 5 in the morning. Again, it was an issue where it was 100% fake traffic, data center traffic. They happen to be 100% Android, although that isn't a marker for if it's going to be fake or not. It's probably just a little bit easier for fake traffic to be Android, but there's a way to spoof any particular type of OS when it comes to digital ad fraud. Now, just kind of to take this all back, the Alliance for Audited Media was founded over 100 years ago, and we were founded for a specific purpose. The ANA, the Association of National Advertisers, they were sick of throwing money away in advertising fraud over 100 years ago, because they had folks, they were investing in all these newspapers that had distribution claims that were not legitimate. Wildly overblown. They were taking copies, just dumping them in rivers or throwing them in garbage cans. The distribution wasn't actually happening. So the ANA set up AAM back then to distinguish quality publishers from everybody else. Now, the reason why I have this in here is because the same thing pertains now on the digital side, especially with those examples that I just walked through. So what we did with the help of Dr. Fu and a lot of the learnings that we had along the way, we've been doing digital auditing for over 25 years, is that we developed a way for you as an organization to show your advertisers that you have a highly human audience. Now, before I kind of get off this slide, I know we're crunched on time, but I never really liked the look of this slide, and it never really dawned on me why until a couple months ago when I was looking at this. It looks like the fire alarm is on fire. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like it's smelling the fire. It looks like it's on fire. Just a random thing. I probably need to swap that out with something else. But so moving along, we developed quality certification, which is a sort of a build out, like I said, an evolution of what we've been doing already in the digital space. We've already been auditing unique users, page views. Quality certification is an extension of that, and it's a way for, like I said, it's a way for your organization to prove how highly human your audience is to your advertisers. That's done with basically 3 components. There's the business process review, which is where our staff, our digital auditing staff, reaches out, works with your staff, your digital staff, to learn more about where the risks might be, where there might be weaknesses, and what you can do to mitigate that. This is all confidential. This isn't, this is undergoing quality certification. If it comes to a point where we detect a high likelihood of non-human traffic, it's up to you confidentially to do something about it, mitigate it, and then become quality certified, or you can not do anything about it and keep the bot traffic coming through. It's a confidential process. We don't say that you failed the process. Nobody knows that you underwent the process and didn't achieve a quality certification. It's a completely confidential process, much like what we do on the auditing side for circulation. So in addition to that business process review, we also have the quantity verification, which, like I said, we've been doing for a long time. And then there's also the quality verification. That quality verification is done with a tag that runs on your website. It's an asynchronous tag, so it doesn't slow anything down. It's very lightweight, but it essentially runs 500 different parameters at the same time to indicate, to create a likelihood that interaction on the page is highly human or likely to be a bot. So it'll compare the OS that is running on that particular event with the screen resolution, what's happening with the cursor, if it's a mobile, is the gyroscope engaged, what type of interaction they have. So all those 500 different factors, they each had a +1, -1 to the calculation, and for most interactions, you come up with either a high likelihood that it's a human or a high likelihood that it's a bot. All those things work in tandem. Process it can take about 90 days from start to finish, and the I guess the mission behind this is the assumption behind this is that most AAM clients, you have quality audiences. You're spending far and away. If you kind of take a look at what websites spend to engage their clients, what you do is far and away more. You spend more money and have more resources to have new content on a daily basis on your websites, which means that you already have a high likelihood that you have human traffic coming through. You need to be rewarded for that. You need to be recognized for that. And quality certification is a way to do that, because then that helps those advertisers that you saw in the previous slide, that helps them know where to redirect their advertising spend or where to prioritize their advertising spend, so that they don't get caught up in the next MySpace scam and they don't lose $200 million more and they don't have to advertise on 400,000 websites. Here's a quick example. Check how we're doing on time. Okay, I'm going to get through these pretty quickly here, but here's a couple examples for a couple of publishers that we've worked with. Publisher one, it turned out they were buying traffic. They thought through a legitimate agreement. It turned out that it was not legitimate. That it was source traffic, and it was source traffic coming from bots. So they stopped that. They stopped that flow coming through, and you can see in the yellow box there what happened to their traffic. The blue is is a strong indication that it's human. The red is a strong indication that it's a bot, that it's bot traffic. The publisher number two example, these were folks that were not properly filtering their data center traffic. So these were either really lazy bots, or these were like Google bot, Bing bot crawlers that are coming through and indexing. So they were serving ads to the bot traffic. So he said, you can continue to do that and not take a small hit on your page traffic, or on your page views and traffic, or you can mitigate it and you can become quality certified and differentiate yourself. And they chose what I would say the right thing to do is, and turned off their bot center traffic, stopped serving ads to known bots. Now, out of this, and this is kind of the last thing, the last part of the products discussion that I have here. So with the quality certification process, we realized that there's an opportunity to offer quality certification to our clients and be able to shift many of you who are on yearly audit cycles to every other year to 24-month audit cycles. And we do that because we're a nonprofit. We can kind of take a look at the equation as a whole. So we take a look at, okay, here's the incremental cost to add quality certification to your organization, because we have data costs as well when we're running the quality certification tag and doing the business process review, versus what is saved in a print audit for us moving to every other year, 24 months. So we take those two, compare them, and then we come up with a quote. Now, typically it's a very incremental cost, or next to nothing at all, for many of our organizations to shift from an annual circulation audit to a 24-month audit and incorporate quality certification. So you get that new product, that new service of quality certification, that distinction on your digital side, which I'm assuming is where much of your focus is these days. And you also free up resources on your circulation side, because now your circulation folks only have to go through that audit process every 24 months instead of every 12 months. And it's done, we call it a continuous assurance program, because it's essentially continuous on both sides. There is a continuous monitoring of your website with the quality certification, because bot traffic can happen anytime. And then there's also new technology that we employ on the print side as well, to make sure that we can catch any mistakes as they happen, and then also to sort of do a lot of the testing along the way, so that we don't have to burden your folks, your staff, with an audit, with a very labor-intensive audit at that 24-month mark. So it becomes a lot easier to kind of do that audit, and the costs typically offset the quality certification side of things. So you get that new AAM offering there as well. You get that distinction of being a quality publisher, which in all likelihood you are, and it's that way to separate yourself from that 97% of the internet that's just out there to steal what's essentially your money, the money that you should be entitled to first. So with that, I apologize for running long. Looks like I ran about 11 minutes long there, so I apologize for that. However, I haven't seen any questions or anything come up. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, anything that they'd like to bring up now? Happy to answer any questions for you Otherwise, I want to say thank you for hanging in there and checking out the latest with AAM and what we're doing. I appreciate your time, and feel free to reach out to me after this with any takeaways that you may have from this that you want to follow up on. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.